Good afternoon and welcome everyone. So to this Sutta class on Sunday. So we are going to begin the Sutta class. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhang dhammang sanghang namasami. So today's sutta is Majjhima Nikaya Suttas 87, Piyajatika Suttas, that's born from those who are dear. And this is actually this suttas, actually we should reflect it very, very often, because all of us, have to face a day, have to depart with our loved one, because death is not optional, isn't it? Yeah, and especially like even in another suttas, in this Anguttara Nikaya suttas, the Buddhas also mentioned that we should reflect it. It's even every day that life is impermanent. We are going to die anytime. So sometimes we tend to forget, isn't it? Sometimes after a while we think that, and then we start to planting ahead, And I remember, Friday, or after the talks, a lady said to me, she said, I'm worried about, like she let go certain things, and then when she listened to the talks, and then she realized that she still haven't really completely let go yet, that she thought that she let go. And then she started to worry that she should carry this for another year. Then I told her, you didn't even know whether you're still alive tomorrow. Why you worry about, a year time you still hold on to things? So this is how sometimes we tend to forget, isn't it? Theoretically, we understand, but the mind itself just have that resentment, but we just don't want to accept that is the truth. But even though it's the truth, but we just don't want, we don't want this the truth, we want it to be otherwise. But in fact, this is the truth. That's why when we reflect this, contemplate again and again, it's really sinking into our mind and remind us again and again and again. And one part of mindfulness is we remember, you see. And this is really reflecting, contemplating these suttas actually to help us to develop mindfulness. That's why we be mindful, remember. So that's why this is a very good sutta that, it's because it's really hit home to us that it's going to, we have to face this day. So the day will come, because no one can avoid, and no one can live forever, isn't it? So that's why we prepare ourselves. And even as a monastic, we always have, we every fourth night we have this chanting, but I used to encourage people to even reflect it every day. And one of, we have these 10 dhammas of reflection, this 10 subject of reflection. There is that all that is mine, beloved and pleasing, will become otherwise, will become separated from me. We should this should be reflected again and again for those who have gone forth. But actually, this is not only applied to monastic; it's applied to all of us, isn't it? We should reflect this again and again every day. It's going to happen. So I'll start these suttas that is happened. Thus have I heard, on one occasion, the Blessed One was living at Savatthi in Jeta Grove, Anathapindika's park. On that occasion, a certain householder's dear and beloved only son had died. After his son's death, he had no more desires to work or to eat. He kept going to the Chana grounds and crying, "My only son, where are you? My only son, where are you?" Then the householder went to the Blessed One, and after paying homage to him, sat down at one side. The Blessed One said to him, "Householder, your faculties are not those of one in control of his own mind. Your faculties are deranged." "How could my faculties not be deranged?" "Venerable Sir, for my dear and beloved only son has died. Since he died, I have no more desires to work or to eat. I keep going to the charnel grounds and crying, 'My only son, where are you? My only son, where are you?' So it is, householder, so it is. Sorrow, lamentation, pain, grief, and despair are born from those who are dear, arise from those who are dear." So the Buddha said that, it's like when our loved one leave us, so we feel sad, so our suffering is born from those who are dear. And of course, he's this householder. He's disagree with the Buddha. So he said, "Venerable Sir, who would ever think that sorrow, lamentation, pain, grief, and despair are born from those who are dear, arise from those who are dear?" "Venerable Sir, happiness and joy are born from those who are dear, arise from those who are dear." Then, displeased with the Blessed One was disapproving of them, the householders rose from his seat and left. Now, on the occasion, some gamblers were playing with dice not far from the Blessed One. Then the householder went to those gamblers and said, "Just now, sir, I went to the recluse Gautama. After paying homage to him, I sat down at one side. When I had done so, the recluse Gautama said to me, 'Householder, your faculties are not those of one in control of his own mind,'" and repeat the entire conversation as above that's happening. So remember, sir, happiness and joy are born from those who are dear, arise from those who are dear. Then, displeased with the recluse Gautama's words, disapproving of them, I rose from my seat and left. So it is, householder, so it is. Happiness and joy are born from those who are dear, arise from those who are dear. So, and the gambler also agreed with him. How come the Buddha said that, your dear one will give you suffering, that should give us happiness? Because the suffering is come from our attachment. Because when, the Buddha said, the Buddha said, anger is, he said, greed is less blamable and is difficult. He said it's anger first. Anger is blamable. He said pleasure is, greed is less blamable, but it is difficult to remove. And anger is, the greed is less blamable and is difficult to remove. And anger is blamable, but it's easy to remove. And delusion is very blamable, and it is very difficult. It's very difficult to remove. Like, we don't like someone to be angry, isn't it? And usually those things that give us pleasure, we attach to it, isn't it? We this attachment arises. So this is how, because we have our dear one. Normally the people we like to be with them, because the feelings they give us, we feel happy when we're with them. So we start to attach, think that the happiness is come from that person. So then when we attach to that, when we lose that, we feel sad, and it's like the amount of, the intensity of our attachment to the person give rise to, the attachment give rise to anger, the same intensity. The same, like we can't get what we want, for example. we can't get what we want. We got very upset, isn't it? There's like I think some times ago someone asked me, he said, how could it be? Someone like, there's husband and wife, and the husband loved the wife so much, but he can't bear when the wife, left him, want to divorce with him, and then he killed the wife. He said, how come someone he loved the wife so much, why he killed him? I said, because the attachment. Sometimes we think that we love that person, actually a true love, unconditional love. We just want that person to be happy. We don't want to be being possessive, isn't it? To want to possess this person, to want to own this person. So when we own something, so we have a sense of loss. So if we don't own anything, we don't have that. So because we own something, but rather than we attach to want to be that person, possess that, want to have the possession of that person. Actually, like our dear one, our loved one passed away, doesn't mean that we should not feel sad. Actually, it's okay, but we just acknowledge that and recognize that and understand that this is the nature of life. We understand that there is nature of life. We can't avoid that, But the problem is we want it to be otherwise. And that is the add-on suffering that we give us. So we are not accepting that is the reality of life. So we want it to be otherwise. Then the attachment arises. Usually things that we like give rise to greed. We want more, isn't it? And then when we lose, the things that we like, we feel sad. And the things that we don't like, we have anger. Or we can't get what we want. The anger arises because we can't get. So the attachment gives rise to the same intensity. How much you attach, the intensity of that greed, the intensity of hatred, the same. It's the attachment itself. They said in this dependence origination, the Buddhists mentioned in that, like the greed, the craving to be, craving not to be. When craving to be, craving not to be is still craving. Like we craving not to have this, like some certain things that we don't like. So that craving not to be, that is anger. We don't want, is still craving. And then because of then you craving, and then give rise to upadana. That is the attachment. That is give rise to attachment. And the intensity of the attachment, you see, that, the same, the attachment so strong, and then the greed that we have, the same intensity. That's like, because of this person attached to the wife so much, that's why because he can't get what he wants, so the same intensity. So this is not it's a true love. If the person happy, if unconditional love, we're happy for that person. But because of our ego, our sense of self, we want to own something. We want this belongs to me and mine. So it's part of me. So and we own this. So when we lose it, we have a sense of we lost something. If we don't own anything, we don't have the sense of that. Of course, it's very easy to say that we don't attach, But that's why we need to practice. We need to keep reminding ourselves, So it doesn't mean that we don't have to feel guilty if we still attach to our loved one. It's not that it's wrong, It's just part of being human. It's being part of, like, we've been born in the samsara. We've been born, in the world and part of human. If we don't have that greed, we don't have that attachment, we don't have this hatred, and we don't have this delusion, we are not here. So it's okay, but we recognize that what the cause of our suffering. So we understand, we see. If we can't see the reality of things, then we want something that that life could not offer us. That is part of life. And we're all going to get sick, we're going to grow old, we're going to die. That is the reality, and no one can avoid. Sometimes even those who don't talk about it doesn't mean that it's not going to happen. Especially for Chinese, we always very superstitious. We don't want to mention, the words die, and we try to avoid, and then we don't like the number 4 because the number 4 is the sound close to die. So normally that's we said this is unlucky number. We don't like it, but doesn't mean that we don't talk about it. I mean, it's not going to happen. Whether you like it or not, whether it's not up to you, because the nature goes its own way, isn't it? Whether you like it or not, it's happened. So it's not up to us. But we have. That's why, like on Fridays, someone said about the questions like she doesn't like. She find that it's very negative when we talk about suffering. So especially when this Buddha's teaching of this Four Noble Truths, a lot of people find it quite negative. They say, "Oh, life is suffering." Actually, that we understand that is the nature of this. But because we suffer because we don't understand the nature of life, so we create more suffering for ourselves, isn't it? So we don't understand that it's part. This is the nature of things. Things is not going to stay forever. So even though we lose our loved one, but we still do keep them in our heart. They're still living with us, and we remember the good things, and then that the person has done, and we be grateful, appreciate of that person, and that's also help us to develop the wholesome qualities. Rather thinking that, I have, sometimes when you have the sense of loss, you feel sad. And actually it's happened to me when my mom passed away the first 6 months. Whenever I think of her, I have a sense of sadness, I cry. And until one day I just realized that, hang on a minute, that why I'm just looking at, I have lost this person. Why not I'm just looking at, I have this person for so long. My mother passed away when I was in my 30s. So why not I just look at it, I have this wonderful person, such a beautiful person in my life for 30 odd years. Actually, the moment when I see that, my mind just shifts. And since that day onwards, I don't feel sad anymore. Whenever I remember my mom, actually I have lots of joy and happiness. Because I remember the good qualities of this person, the beauty of this person, and I'm so fortunate to have someone like that in my life, rather than to thinking of I have lost this person, but this person is still in my heart. So after that, whenever I think of my mom, I feel so blessed, I feel so fortunate that I have this person in my life. So there's sometimes that it's good that you reflect, and because sometimes that you focus too much on that, I've lost this person, and that the puncture and go on and on, actually is to reinforce that, and sometimes people even with very small things, like the other day I did mention that someone just lost their job, also they commit suicide. Why? Because they keep focusing on that, and things becomes really big, Things actually is small, and because you keep, telling yourself how bad, and you reinforce that, and it's just like you're putting a microscope, under that. You manifest, it become, actually it's so small, and then you become so big. And then it's as if that this is the whole part of our life. But if that's why we learn to stop. That's why sometimes doing all this reflection and studying suttas, we reflect. Actually, it's really good. So make us contemplate, makes us reflect. So the Buddhas always said this is wise reflection, we become wiser because it reminds us again and again. So that's why it's important that we spend some time not only reading the suttas, but we spend time to reflect and contemplate. What does it mean? And also what it really, means to you and relate to your own experience, your own life experience. So, and then followed by, then the householder left thinking, I agree with the gamblers. Of course, we always, because this is our own views and opinions, when someone, agree with us, if someone, then we think that what we think is really right, isn't it? If our views as such, so we are very happy if someone agree with us, so we think, that must be right because we have same view, we have the same view, then it's okay, it must be right. So he said, okay, yes, I agree with the gamblers. So eventually these stories reached the king's palace. Then King Pasenadi of Kosala told Queen Malika, this is what has been said by the recluse Gautama. Malika, sorrow, lamentation, pain, grief, and despair are born from those who are dear, arise from those who are dear. If that has been said by the Blessed One, sir, then it is so. Because Malika said, since the Blessed One said, then must be, it's true, that this is what the Buddha said. So, no matter what the recluse Gautama said, Malika applauds it thus that has been said by the Blessed One, sir, then it is so, just as a pupil applauds whatever his teacher said to him, saying, so it is, teacher, so it is. So too, Malika, no matter what the recluse Gautama said, you applaud it thus. If that has been said by the Blessed One, sir, then it is so. Be off, Malika, away with you. He said, because you always agree with what the Buddha said. Whatever the Buddha said, you always agree. You always say, yes, he's right. So then Queen Malika addressed the Brahmin, Nali Janka. Come, Brahmin, go to the Blessed One and pay homage in my name with your head at his feet, and ask whether he is free from illness and affliction and is healthy, strong, and abiding in comfort, saying, Venerable Sir, Queen Malika pays homage with his head at the Blessed One's feet, and ask whether the Blessed One is free from illness and so on and so on, and abiding in comfort. Then said this, Venerable Sir, have these words been uttered by the Blessed One? Sorrow, lamentation, pain, grief, and despair are born from those who are dear, arise from those who are dear. Learn well what the Blessed One replies, and report it to me, for Tathagatas to not speak untruth. So he sent one of his attendant to ask the Buddha whether this is what the Buddha said, and see what's the Buddha reply. He said the Buddha will never speak untruth. Yes, madam, he replied, and he went to the Blessed One and exchanged greetings with him. When this courteous and amiable talk was finished, he sat down at one side and said, Master Gautama, Queen Malika pays homage with his head at Master Gautama's feet and asks whether he is free from illness and so on, and abide in comfort. And she said this, Venerable Sir, have these words been spoken by the Blessed One? Sorrow, lamentation, pain, grief, and despair are born from those who are dear, arise from those who are dear. So it is, Brahmin, so it is, Brahmin. Lamentation, pain, grief, and despair are born from those who are dear, arise from those who are dear. It can be understood from this, Brahmin, how sorrow, lamentation, pain, grief, and despair are born from those who are dear, arise from those who are dear. Once in the same Savatthi, there was a certain woman whose mother died. Owing to her mother's death, she went mad, lost her mind, and wandered from street to street, and from crossroad to crossroad saying, have you seen my mother? Have you seen my mother? And it can also be understood from this, how sorrow, lamentation, pain, grief and despair are born from those who are dear, arise from those who are dear. Once in the same Savatthi, there was a certain woman whose father died, whose brother died, whose sister died, whose son died, whose daughter died, whose husband died. And then owing to her husband's death, she went mad and lost her mind and wandered from street to street and from crossroad to crossroad, say, have you seen my husband? Have you seen my husband? And it's repeat the whole thing, like, like whoever the loved one dies, and the person got mad. So actually, when I read it, it remind of me. I remember in the early days, I was like, before I decided to become a nun. So, because I have only one son, I have only one child, So I remember, because I know Pandit Sujato long ago, I know him more than 15 years. So I spoke to him one day. I said, I couldn't imagine because of how I perceive my son as part of me. And how your only son and your hope, your future is on him. You know what I mean? Like you're everything, So then I said, if I can't imagine if I lost him, if I lose him, and maybe I become mad. I said, and this is how. And then how's the practice when you start to practice, And after you have seen and you keep reflecting, contemplating, how's the attachment slowly that you have less attachment, Before that, So I remember when I decided to become a nun, and I left him when he was only 18. So I went to Burma to practice. And yes, at the beginning it's quite difficult. Like you have a sense like you separate from someone that you attach, and that you take it to be me and mine, and it's a sense of you feel like you've been cut off, the flesh on your body, part of your body off, the kind of quite painful feelings. But then I realized that, and I I've been reflecting and contemplating, and actually I asked myself, even my only son, he will not give me any happiness. My happiness is not come from him. Actually, the happiness is come within myself. Within the letting go, living in the moment. Then I realized that this happiness that no one can give me. Actually, this happiness is within myself. It's not dependent on something outside me, like an object or a person. That this is how we think that our happiness comes from something outside. But actually no, this is the happiness, the peace, the calm, actually is within myself. That is with me, and that is I developed this within me, and actually no one can give it to me. And actually I realized that. So then I just left, and I remember recently when I visited my family, and my daughter now asked me, do you miss us, after, you visiting us? So I said, actually not really. I'm happy when I'm there. It's not that I don't love them, I love them. But even if I left, I don't feel like, I have missing something. When I'm there, I'm fully there, I'm happy and visit them. But once, I left and I leave that behind, And actually, it takes many years of practice to really keep reflecting. When you miss someone, you look at it, you reflect on that, you contemplate, and that is the letting go only happen little by little. So if we don't start to do this letting go now, we cannot expect that last minute we can say, okay, come on, let go. You can't. So that it takes many years of practice, to really to let that go, because how the attachment, that we attach to our. That's like when we lose them, we become. That's why if we are so attached to that person, to the object, we got so crazy, isn't it? If we lose, the person that we attach so much. So that's why it's not that we don't attach to them, we don't love them. We still love them. We always I always there for him. Whenever he call, he would like to talk to me when he feels stressed, when, in life, late life is busy. Sometimes it's a lot of work to do. Sometimes you stress out. Sometimes you feel really stressed. So you need to talk to someone. So I'm always there. Like whenever he call, I talk to him. Then each time he feel better. And it doesn't mean that I'm not living with him. I'm not with him. Doesn't mean that I don't love him. That's like the same thing. We don't have to be with that person. We still love that person, because it's the attachment, the ownership, that we want to own something. This is me. I want to own it. So that is really the attachment, that really the source of suffering. So, and it can also be understood from this how sorrow, lamentation, pain, grief, and despair are born from those who are dear, arise from those who are dear. Once in the same Savatthi, there was a certain man whose mother died, whose father died, whose brother died, whose sister died, whose son died, whose daughter died, whose wife died. Owing to his wife died, he went mad and lost his mind and wandered from street to street and from crossroad to crossroad, saying, "Have you seen my wife? Have you seen my wife?" And it also, the Buddhas tried to give more example. And it can also be understood from this how sorrow, lamentation, pain, grief, and despair are born from those who are dear, arise from those who are dear. Once in the same Savatthi, there was a certain woman who went to live with her relatives' family. Her relatives wanted to divorce her from her husband and give her another whom she did not want. Then the woman said to her husband, "Lord, these relatives of mine want to divorce me from you and give me to another whom I do not want." Then the man cut the woman in two and disemboweled himself, thinking that I shall be together in afterlife. It can also be understood from this how sorrow, lamentation, pain, grief, and despair born from those who are dear arise from those who are dear. So that separate from those that we like, isn't it? So then, delighting and rejoice in the blessed one's words, the Brahmin Nalijaga rose from his seat, went to Queen Malika and reported to her his entire conversation with the Blessed One. And then Queen Malika went to King Pasenadi of Kosala and asked him, "What do you think, sir? Is Princess Vajiri dear to you? Is Prince Vajiri dear to you?" "Yes, Malika, Princess Vajiri is dear to me. So what do you think, sir? If change and alterations took place in Prince Vajiri, would sorrow, lamentation, pain, grief, and despair arise in you?" They said, "Is this princess is dear to you? Is anything happen to her? How do you feel?" They said sometimes when things has not happened to us, it's didn't hit home. Like it's happened to us, like for example, is someone parent, someone loved one died, we say, "Oh yeah, sorry," but and then we can say, "Oh yeah, that is life," and very easily we ask them, let go the soft things. But if happened to our own loved ones, it's really hit home, because I know it from my experience, when some of my friends' grandma, the fathers, the parents pass away, and they say, "Oh, how old?" They say, "Oh, 80 oh, then you think that, oh, it's a good age, it's a as if that is old enough to die, you know what I mean? So when this happened to my mom, when she passed away at the age of 70 over, then that is different when it happened to your own mom. Then you feel much more. It's really hit home, you know. Then that's why this is different, you know. It's easy that we ask other people to let go. It's only that happened to you is really hit home. And you can really see your own attachment, how much we attach. So change and So change and alterations in Princess Vajiri would mean an alteration in my mind. How would sorrow, lamentation, pain, grief, and despair not arise in me? It was with reference to this that Blessed One who knows and sees, accomplished and fully enlightened said, sorrow, lamentation, pain, grief, and despair are born from those who are dear, arise from those who are dear. What do you think, sir? Is noble Queen Vasabha dear to you? Yes. Is General Vidudappa dear to you? Am I dear to you? Are Kasi and Kausala dear to you? So she's Queen Malika keep asking, you know, is it I'm dear to you, or your others, you know, wife dear to you, and you know, and your general, you know, says yes, Malika, Kasi and Kausala are dear to me. We owe it to Kasi and Kausala that we use Kasi sandalwood and may garland scents and unquenced. So what do you think, sir? If change and alteration took place in Kasi and Kausala, would sorrow, lamentation, pain, grief, and despair arise in you? Change and alteration in Kasi and Kausala would mean an alteration in my life. How could sorrow, lamentation, pain, grief, and despair not arise in me? It was with reference to this, sir, that Blessed One who knows and sees, accomplished and fully enlightened said, sorrow, lamentation, pain, grief, and despair are born from those who are dear, arise from those who are dear. It is wonderful, Malika. It is marvelous how far the Blessed One penetrates with wisdom and see with wisdom. Come, Malika, give me the ablution water. The king Pasenati of Kausala rose from his seat and arranging his upper robe on one shoulder, he extended his hands in reverential salutation towards the Blessed One and uttered this exclamation 3 times. Honor to the Blessed One, accomplished and fully enlightened. Honor to the Blessed One, accomplished and fully enlightened. Honor to the Blessed One, accomplished and fully enlightened. And this is the suttas of this Piyajatika Sutta. So any comments and questions?
Thank you for the sutra. When I lost my son passed away. Of course, it was very, very painful, and I was numb all night. But the next day, I had a choir practice with my Buddhist friends, and we always chant. And my heart said to go to that, to not just stay at home and be in the grief. So I went and I shared with everyone that I had just lost my son and how terrible, how traumatic it was. And they said, we will all chant for you. So everyone was chanting, and as I started to chant, at first I was crying, and then the chant strengthened me, and it actually really helped me to feel it was helping my son.
Yeah.
And, you know, that's the thing too. They said, now it's so important. We will all chant and pray for your son and know that your prayers are so important to help him with his next lifetime. Yeah. And that was, and so I remember that, and every time, I still have tears every now and again, but I always chant for him, and I know I'm helping him. Even though we're not together, I am, like, of course, in the heart love, but I know my prayers are connected with him and how that can help. And so when I lost my mum, the same thing, my ex-husband, the prayers help so much.
Yes, the same, like actually with the loss of my mom after that 5 years, my father and my brothers only within 3 months. Like my father passed away, after that my brother passed away. Actually, it's a very powerful message that really make me look at. Sometimes, you tend to you think that, it's, let's worry about it later, and, and I'm still young and maybe, it's not going to happen to me. That you don't want to look at it, you don't want to face it, but that is really a very powerful message, and it's a very powerful Dharma and actually it's really made me more appreciative of my own life. I remember when I was in Thailand, every morning when I get up, actually sometimes this makes you have more strength. The morning I get up, I say, oh, I'm still alive, I'm so appreciative of each moment I have, because sometimes we take it for granted, we think that we live forever, and we just waste our time worrying this or worrying about that, spending time at doing unnecessary things, Then I was to me it's like each moment is so precious and give me so much energy. I must say they arouse lots of energy that because of you really appreciate that. I reflect so much contemplation on death a lot. Actually, if you do it correctly, so actually it gives you that strength, you become more positive, and you become like, that you appreciate each moment you got. And I remember that when I was there, I have so much strength. I sleep so little and I practice, because to me, like, I still be able to brave, then I really have to fully make use of that. I don't know when I'm the next one, you know what I mean? Because it's really powerful that really, you see someone, especially you have this loss in your life that, especially my father and my brother is only within 3 months, like, in your family. And that is really powerful. Sometimes we learn from these. Of course, it's not that I don't have the sadness. I remember, actually, when my father passed away, I'm much better. I was very peaceful. So I was with him to the last moment, and I was really quite tired, Then I just fall asleep. Then I wake up. I see why he looks very peaceful actually, because he got lung cancer. And lung cancer is very difficult to breathe, and he's and then you just look at him, you can't help, you can't do anything. It's just so helpless. It's just look at him, Then I just sit beside him, and after that I'm so tired that I fall asleep. Then I open my eyes. Because he's already passed away. That's why he was so peaceful. He lied. I said, oh, he looks so peaceful. He looks so peaceful, and like a relief to him. Because when he couldn't breathe, it's so much suffering. But when he gone, like he's so peaceful. And I look at him, oh, gee, he's so peaceful now. Then I think, then I realized that he's already passed away. And then I still quite peaceful all the time, Then until the doctors come, and after that, and when they carry the body and put into the coffin, and I'm still quite peaceful. So it's then until that I see the body into the coffin and take away, and I just realized that, oh yes, it's really gone. And I have a bit of sadness, like I have a few drops of tears. So it's not too bad. Like I have a bit of sense, like sometimes this is how attachment. The person is still there, even though the person is sick, we still feel that he's there. You know what I mean? That our attachment. So when the person is not there, then we really feel that, he's no longer there. Then this time you really lose this person. You know what I mean? That I have a little bit of that, But because of the experience of my mom, that is really helped me when I deal with my father, my brother. Like, you get back, you see things again and again, you practice, you remind yourself again and again. And then this is how actually letting go will not happen like overnight. It takes a lot of practice. There's like we have to keep reminding ourselves, reflecting and contemplating. The letting go only happen little by little. We cannot expect it overnight. Okay, so it's very nice that you share with us. Actually, it does that because if we attach to that person, because for as a Buddhist we believe in rebirth, so sometimes because of the attachment, like the person reborn like will be in a spirit's realm and they couldn't take rebirth again, because actually it's really happened to one of our supporters and her best friend. And her best friend is a non-Buddhist. So she's passed away because her husband really attached to her very much. Her husband couldn't let her go. And very, very attached to her. And you know what happened? This her friend went to he's already passed away. Her spirit, she went to one of her best friend's husband secretary. Like, sometimes you depends on, like, he tried to pass the message, but sometimes like our frequency, our like energy, sometimes you don't meet. You have to find someone that you can meet, that you can pass the message. So she went to the husband of the friends, secretary, and pass on the message that, that because of he holding on to me, I find it very difficult to have a rebirth, to get to reborn in other places. It's a true story, and the person, is non-Buddhist, and this secretary doesn't know this lady, and this happened, and that's why then they come to us, ask us to chant for this person, and then the husband realized that, then the husband tried to let go, because before that he couldn't let go, because when you're holding on, because you didn't give the permission for your loved one to go, then he's become hanging around. The spirit says, sometimes let them go. Actually, we appreciate, we're grateful for the time that we have together. But when the times come, it's just like, sometimes it's the same thing, like we have a gathering with our friends, but no matter how happy, how we enjoy each other company, like, for example, like family reunion, but it's come to a time that we need to part, isn't it? So no matter how wonderful, it is, it's time to part. We need to part. We part. So the only thing we can do, we send each other's good wishes. We wish other well. That is the thing they can do. We send them off. So, but doesn't mean, even though, for example, even though we are not together, but the person is still in our heart. So, but if we keep focusing on that, how terrible, I'd be terrible without this person, and that we really manifest, and that is more suffering.
I'd just like to share too, my sister lost her son 15 years ago, and she's a Christian, so she doesn't believe in rebirth, and she just suffers. She says every day she wakes up as if she's got a knife in her heart, and they had to move the house. They moved about 3 years ago. So it's so sad. I mean, I have so much joy because I can celebrate my life, and know that he that I'm helping him, whatever, however, through my prayers and through my chanting and through my beliefs in a good life in the next life for him. And so, I feel I'm so fortunate to have the Buddhist practice and such dear friends supporting me, which whenever someone passes away, we support one another very, very dearly. So thank you.
Okay, thank you for your sharing. Is there any more questions or comments?
Ajahn, this morning you gave a talk about giving, and if we can't give material things, how hard it is to give up greed, hatred and delusion. But you also mentioned that if we can't give, it's very hard to forgive.
Yeah.
Could you talk a little bit more about
Yes.
if the inability
Okay.
to give,
The
so difficult to forgive?
forgiveness is come from the holding on the attachment, and it's also come from our ego and our sense of self, because we can't let that go. So if someone is very generous, someone always give, because giving is a way of letting go. So it's just help, because if someone is very self-centered, you only thinking of yourself, then you focus so much on yourself. So when you give, that is a way of letting go. Because sometimes if someone very stingy, someone is focused on themselves, so much, they don't give. And you can notice those people. Those people are very self-centered. They are very difficult to forgive others. They really hold on to things very tightly, because it's come from the attachment, the ego, the sense of self. Sometimes people think that, if I forgive you, that means you're going to get away. Because you're really bad, you have done me wrong. How come I forgive you? I don't want to let you to get away. It's against me and mine. I wouldn't let you to get away because what you have done. And sometimes very subtle, we have the kind of revenge. You want make the person feel guilty. And giving is also an act of kindness and compassion. Because giving is not only, of course the giving is, we have different level of giving, isn't it? We have to start with easy first, easy things, give out, a small thing, then we give up. At the beginning we give up things that, the things that we don't really like it so much, but it's okay, we give it away. Then slowly we give away the things that we really would like to have it. And that is really giving, And slowly, when you give, and then giving is not only material things, sometimes like our time, our service, being kind to others, is also giving. But the giving has to start with from a coarser level to more refined level. We cannot just straight away, because the whole path of practice is a gradual training. You see, we cannot force the mind to do things that, it's like straight away. For example, if someone very, very stingy, and you can't ask the person to give away, the things that he loves most and things like that. Maybe he can give away some of the things that he don't really need it, what I mean? But at least he do something. At least he start somewhere. At least, And then this is how it's a gradual training, and it's also an act of kindness and compassion. Then you be able to embrace, when you have this kindness and compassion, the mistake of others, and makes you easier to forgive. So if a generous person is someone that be able to embrace, the mistake of others, if someone is compassionate and kind, you be easy to embrace the mistake of others. Even someone has done us wrong, we still be able to easier to forgive. If someone are really very selfish and self-centered, it's very difficult, because it's come from the attachment, the sense of self, the ego. Me, you have done this to me. How come you have how come this happened to me, and you have done this to me, And that's why this is, the givings is helping. Actually it's a gradual training. Slowly, then the more you give, you have more, your heart become bigger. The more you give, we can feel for ourselves, we have a big heart. So when you have a big heart, we don't hold on to small little things, isn't it? You be easily forgive, easily embrace the mistake of others, forgive the mistake of others, no matter what others has done, to you, even really bad, because you have a big heart. There's I love one of the saying of one of these Taiwanese. She's a quite famous nun. She said, having a big house is not as good as having a big heart. Having a big heart is much more important than having a big house. Sometimes our heart is so narrow-minded, we can't even sand go in, small little thing also we cannot hold, The heart is so narrow, the mind is so narrow. So got a big heart. So those who are really generous, they have very big heart. So when someone has very big heart, they can easily embrace the mistake of others and forgive others easily. Is it make sense to you? Okay. So I think any more questions or comments? So I think we end. So we pay respect to the Buddha.